Right, we're back on the plot. Is it Wednesday the 29th of May? Yesterday I was discussing about Cabbage Root Fly and it had knocked out 3. I don't know if you can make that out there. I've just replaced those. Unfortunately I've checked again today and it's wiped out the entire lot of my purple sprouting broccoli plants. I'll just show you. The whole lot. I'm absolutely gutted. It's just done the whole lot. You can see there's no root system at all. You can see some of the maggots in there. Focusing on them. But yeah, every single one. Talk about gutted. Anyway, there's not a lot I can do. It's my own fault. What I should have done was covered the thing with enviromesh, like that one there. They're absolutely 100% health. There's nothing in there at all that's affected them, and it doesn't seem to be that bothered about kale. So all I can do is try. I've just got maybe enough time to resow quickly, so I'm going to do that now. And then the other thing before I do that is where the planting hole was. If you can see this here, I'm going to dig down in there, because it'll probably be full of the little blighters, like I did with the kale, and try and get as many out as I can to prevent another brood hatching. And then yeah, I can't just make them out here, but it'll be full of them. Anyway, I'll get on and sow them again, and hopefully if they'll germinate I'll cover the whole lot with enviromesh. Okay, I'll come back to you later. Well, what I've done is I've gone round the beds where the purple sprouting broccoli was, and I've dug a kind of plug of soil out where each plant was, about 1.5 inches circumference round the actual where the stem was, and about 3 inches deep. And if you look, I cut the recording off for some reason. Let's come back to that. I was just showing you. I was saying I think I've got the worst of the infestation hopefully out of the planting holes by digging this plug of infected root mass out. Each plug was pretty much like that, heavy infestation. Some worse, some not as bad, but we just want to try and remove as many of the maggots as possible. Basically, anyhow, they're all going to go in there, a watery grave. So as I was saying, it's coming on to rain. I'm going to sow some more broccoli seed. I think I'd just scrape inside with the time limit. So I'll see you in a bit. Morning folks, welcome back to Cumbria Homestead. Damp, squidgy bit of a morning really, although the rain has been very welcome on the gardens, I must say. So I'm off down the plot to do some work in the greenhouse, but before I do that I just wanted to quickly show you this. These are my dwarf French bean seeds. I don't know how well this is coming out on the camera, but hopefully you will be able to see that a lot of them, probably 60%, are sprouting. I've had quite a lot of problems with germination, so I thought I'd give the chitting method a go, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. So hopefully we'll be able to get those potted up and make a successional sowing. So really pleased with that. Right, let's get off down the plot. Okie doke, right, we're back down the plot. These are the only 2 cherry tomatoes that I managed to get germinated, and you can see how far behind I am. So this was the variety, it's an F1 Rosada. Anyway, not had much luck with it. So I bought these 2 yesterday from the stalls, and they are sweet aperitif. Aperitif. Anyway, apparently they're incredibly sweet, said to be one of the sweetest of cherry tomatoes. So I looked it up on the internet last night, and they're not an F1, so I can save seed from them, so that'll do for me. Anyway, I've given them a good soak because they were quite dry, and I've removed all the lower leaves, and they're a cordon variety, so you've got to side shoot them. So I'm going to plant these quite deep, because another thing I found out off YouTube is that if you do that, they'll send out more shoots from the stem, so kind of improve the root system. So I've soaked the ground as well, ready, so I'll get those in, and then I want to come back and talk about, share some thoughts about grapevines after watching Terry King's most recent uploads. So I'll come back to you very soon. Right, we've got those planted. Let's turn our attention to thoughts around this grapevine. Terry's vine is Boskoop Glory, and in his latest upload he was showing how he trained it along the roof of his polytunnel, and that he was going to have to start cutting it out because it was overtaken and he needed room for other things. I think he had 1,000 bunches he'd counted, and he was going to thin them down to somewhere around 100, I think he said. So I'm not disagreeing with any of that at all. I think the main point that I was wanting to make, and I've said this before, so I'm just kind of really reiterating, and also I want to point out, this was great information from Ken and Carol's Somerset allotment. Ken got in touch with me after that upload I did, with his thoughts around what you really need to be thinking in terms of either spur pruning or cane pruning. These are the important issues, I think. And it seems to me Terry's vine, the Boskoop Glory, is best spur pruned. At least that's what I would think watching his video. It seems that it responds well to spur pruning. Now this is a variety flame, so it's just given to me from a cutting. The variety I had before that, as some of you will know, was Black Hamburg, and that was definitely spur pruned. So all I did on the old vine, I trained out arms. I had a central stem coming up, and then I had arms going out, like very much like an espalier apple tree on each side, and then these canes, from these canes would arise spurs, and then every year they would fruit very close to the stem. So maybe about here or 2 buds up you'd see bunches of flowers coming out, and then when I had 2 bunches I then pinched the growing tip out about a leaf beyond the last bunch of grapes, and that's pretty much all I did, and that worked very well. And again, like Terry, I used to thin the bunches out, probably a foot between each fruiting spur, if you will, and then, as I said, I allowed 2 bunches because I was making wine from them. Now if you were having them as eating grapes, you might only allow 1 bunch. So I think it's a bit of trial and error, and what works best for you ultimately, you know, what do you want them for? So those are considerations as well. Now so I was approaching excuse me, this variety with the same thinking, and it didn't work out. So I was pruning it back to a bud, 1 bud from the main stem, maybe there or something, a bud there, so just above there, or even sometimes there's a bud here. I would take it right back to there, and then the following year I wasn't getting any grapes at all. There was no flower clusters, so I was going, what the heck's going on here? So then I left a much longer spur. So if we look at this one, I'm just trying to get a focus on here. There's the main stem there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I pinched it out at 5 buds. Okay, so that side shoot is over a foot long, and then when it emerged this year got another 1, 2, 3 buds before the bunch of flowers emerged. Okay, so the whole side shoot now is sort of 2 foot long. Alright, and there's another shoot emerged from there, again over 1 foot long, and that has a bunch of grapes on it as well. Okay, so clearly that is taking up a huge amount of space in this little 8x6 greenhouse. So what Ken was saying was, and I agree with him, and this is one of the main considerations for me, I think, that when you're growing your vine, you need to determine how far away from the main stem is your vine throwing out flowers. So if it's a long distance, 2 foot or something, then the thinking is that is more likely a vine that needs to be cane pruned. So in that sense, what you're doing, I am going to try this. I'll give it one more season. So there's a shoot coming out here, and I've just left this now. Terry calls these leaders. You can call them what you want. New canes or shoots, whatever you like. So I've got about 3 or 4 here that I can bundle together like this and just leave them growing right down to the end of the greenhouse there, and then I'll pinch them out, and then I can tie those in, and then we'll see what happens next year, whether they then fruit more prolifically. Okay, and then the rest of them, like there's one there for example, that's probably about 2.5 foot long now. I could keep that, or I'll just pinch it back. I'll cut it back quite close there, something like this. So the only other thing I want to mention, and then in terms of summer pruning, so if you look at this, here's the main stem, alright, and again we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, pinched it out at 5 buds, and from it looks like the 3rd bud, the side shoot came out, 1, 2, 3, and again at the 5th bud, a little bunch of grapes. And you can see where I pinched it out there, and then a new growth has emerged. Alright, so in terms of my summer pruning, all I do is just take that off. Right, so there's a leaf there, and the bunch of grapes is here. That's all I do. Let's see if I can find another example. Okay, so there's a shoot here. Sorry about this, it's not brilliant camera footage, I know. It's difficult to do it. So here's the main stem. So we've got a new shoot emerged this year. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 4 or 5 buds. I stopped it where I could see there was a bunch of grapes there. It's not big. And then again, a new shoot has emerged, which is now about 18 inches long. Again, what I'm going to do is just take that off. Okay, so I hope that helps. I wanted to put my thoughts in because it's created quite a bit of interest, I think, Terry's video. And the other thing is, for those of you who are thinking of planting a vine, you're not going to get any fruit for the first 3 years, so you want to be focusing on making the structure wherever you're going to plant your vine. So think about making the structure and making a good root system on the vine. So for 3 years you've got to be patient, and then again, as I say, what you want to do is notice, do your flowers come very short distance from the main stem. So if you have a look at this other vine out here, again I showed this last time but I'll show it again. This is either Concord or Gamay grape, so it's a wine grape really. There's the main stem, the old wood. New shoot emerged, and just 1 or 2 buds away there's a bunch of grapes, and immediately after, put this out of the way, can you see that? There's one there and there's one there, so very much like Boskoop Glory, fruiting very near the main stem, the old wood, and that is repeated all over this vine. Again, there's an example, old wood, one bud, you've got a bunch of grapes. Next door to it, old wood, shoot emerges, another bunch of grapes there. Like that's got 2 on, and then I just stopped it, pinched it out there. Okay, so I would say for me that's a spur pruner. That vine is, I'm just going to spur prune that. Right, okay, I'll stop it there. So thanks very much for watching. I do hope that helped a little bit. As I say, I think it's you've just got to kind of, it's a bit of trial and error, but if these videos help, that's great. Right, see you in a bit.